As you can see by looking at the history of photography, it seems that it progressed in a natural way towards cinema. So many photographers were taking sequences of shots. And as we saw with Muybridge, he was actually putting those sequences of shots on discs. And so many of these older technologies utilized a circular disc of some kind that they could spin in order to create the illusion of movement. And this is because at this point in time, when photography was young, um, we didn't have rolls of film, right? People had plates. They had single pieces of film in later years, celluloid pieces. Um, so what we're going to look at in the next lecture is how some of the innovations at the end of the 19th century, things like new lenses, um, new types of film stock, and new types of apparatuses, camera apparatuses, really allowed people to create sequences of images that would come to be termed cinema in later years. And you'll notice when you're watching these clips that they're longer than the last lecture. This is because when cinema became cinema, um, there, we start to see films that are between 1 minute and 10 minutes long, generally. So for the second lecture, I've offered several of these short films for each of the innovators I'm going to be talking about. And one thing I want you to keep in mind is that we tend, in 2020, we tend to go to look for a movie to just entertain us or to surprise us, to wow us with technique. And we've seen so many techniques at this point that we're not easily impressed, right? And so I want you to try to imagine that you're back in time, you're a little kid or you're, however old you are in 1903, when you watch The Great Train Robbery for the first time. And you have never seen anything like that. Never seen uh, cross-cutting and dissolves and an action film like that, right? No one has ever seen a film like Méliès' Trip to the Moon. And even some of these shorter films I'm going to show you, they don't seem that they even have a narrative. We're going to look at a lot of non-narrative films because that's really the form that first emerged. And uh, those non-narrative films might seem very boring to us, because here's just people walking down the street or someone driving in a train. But for audiences at the turn of the 20th century, these images moving on the screen was completely amazing. So try to kind of put yourself in that place and think about if you were someone who had never seen a movie and didn't even know that movies existed, what would you make of some of these early images? All right, so enjoy the viewing.